Hi, my name is Logan Walker with the Walk of Life podcast, where I interview people, break down their lives, and get to know what they know. Welcome, Jason McVey, who is a paramedic firefighter in Lacy Fire District 3. Welcome, Jason. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Sun's out.
Sun's beautiful outside.
Sun's out, guns out, right?
That's right. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, no place like Raymond.
When it's nice here, it's nice here.
Yeah, that's for sure. The first question I ask everybody who comes on the show, so like after you pass, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered by?
I put quite a bit of thought into this. Think about this quite a bit, actually. I would like to be known as someone who is generous. Generous with both their, not just their finances, but somebody who's very generous with their time, with other people.
I can't agree with that more because, I mean, if you think about it, time is money. So you are being generous with your money if you're giving up your time, and that's something that people remember forever. That's where memories are made, things like that. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's, my parents are that way too, and actually all my whole family is, they're very generous with their time, and actually materialistically generous too, but mostly with their time, with their people and their friends. And you've seen
that a lot growing up and such?
Yeah, my dad was always somebody who was very generous with helping people, with getting stuff for people, with fixing things for people, just kind of like that. He was just a very, very generous person.
That's a very common theme I see with, good people, successful people, things like that. It's just being able to help them out. And
I think it's a small town thing too. I think around here, if you notice, when there's some sort of big event or somebody has some sort of big health crisis, or the community seems to come together pretty well, and a lot of people around here are extremely generous with just what they can provide, what little they have, for how small of an economic area we have. I think people are pretty generous.
Yeah,
with what they have, little they have.
I couldn't agree more, and we see that every day.
Yeah,
which is cool. Mm-hmm. So tell me about your childhood and what morals your parents kind of instilled in you.
Well, I was born and raised here in Raymond. I went to Raymond Elementary School, Raymond High School. Both my parents, very, very hardworking people. My mom, 2 or 3 jobs, usually at once. She worked very, very hard. My dad was a millwright in the local mill before it shut down. It was, I think it was called Mayor Brothers, I think, which is down where those condos are alongside the water there. And there's the marijuana shops and all. There was a big mill that used to be there. So he worked there as a millwright for quite a few years. Then he's kind of cycled through different mills, and he's since retired. But very hardworking family. So they kind of instilled into me just basically be a company man, I guess, for the most part. You just find a job that you enjoy, you dedicate yourself to that, and work hard.
Did they ever talk to you about that, or is it just like you watched them do it so much, it was like, that's just how things are done?
I think I just kind of watched them and just kind of figured that was just the norm.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way that they went. And everybody that we grew up around, all my friends and their parents are kind of the same way too. They all had, because we weren't the most, wealthy family by any stretch of the imagination, but everybody that hung around were kind of the same economic class of just people that just worked 2 or 3 different jobs and worked hard. And then, they all got together we'd always get together on weekends, the whole families, and they'd have parties and different things that last all weekend.
And that's special too. I remember we were not the wealthiest, but my parents did their best to, our vacations, like to have fun, was get a bunch of families with a bunch of kids our age, and we would just go camping.
Yeah, something simple.
Yeah, you spend $30 and you've got 4 tents in one little campsite, and all the kids are running around for a weekend, and I think that's about the cheapest way you could do it.
Oh, for sure. My parents would set up on the weekends. We'd have a giant volleyball net, and we had a big backyard, so they'd all come and everybody bring something. They'd barbecue all weekend and play volleyball and drink and everything else, and just kind of hoop it up. And all of us kids would kind of hang out together and do our own little things. So that was pretty fun, cheap entertainment.
Yeah, and you'll never forget that.
No, not at all. And like I said, we didn't grow up with that most financially secure, but we never went without by any means.
Yeah, as long as you have food, place to live.
Yeah, and we always had plenty of that. You know, I was always taken care of that way. I always had decent clothes, had a car to drive, always had health insurance, that kind of thing. So I was never deprived. But,
Yeah. One thing I learned in college, I took a child and adolescent psychology class, and we talked about raising kids a lot. And it was a couple things you have to make sure when you're raising a kid, that they know and they can feel it and they can see it, is that your kid is safe, healthy, so nurtured, and loved. That was like, that's all you need, you know?
Yeah.
Give them food when they're hungry, hold them when they're crying, don't let anyone just, hurt them. Don't.
Yeah.
That's the key fundamentals to raise a kid. I was like, what?
It is kind of remarkable, though, that a lot of kids that don't have that absolutely don't have that at all. I mean, around this area, you kind of see that pretty frequently, too, that just a lot of kids that go without, and that's just kind of the norm for them, which is super sad to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely sad to see. But.
Very sad. And I do think that it's not it's not set in stone. Like, when you become older, you get to make your own decisions. So you can either let that affect you in a positive or a negative way, but it is tough.
Yeah. Well, I see it a lot in the job, like in a lot of the houses that we would go into, like professionally with my job, that you can kind of see the younger kids, you can almost tell that they have a path that they can go. Right, and you could tell that at some of these kids, that they were just to get a little bit out of the situation they're in, or maybe just get some sort of a leg up or some sort of positivity, they could take that positive route. But unfortunately, the situation in which they grow up into doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you follow them through the years, you're like, man, if you could have just had that one little push, that one little positive influence, that one little something to show that you're worth it, then that would, a whole trajectory of your life would have been so much
as
different.
A teacher, that's something I'm really paying attention to.
Oh, that's right. You forgot about you're going to be a teacher.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So it's like
a English?
Math.
Oh, that's right. I knew it was something that was unpopular.
Yeah.
So math. Yeah, it was math. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And that's another thing I want to change is the idea that math sucks. Because everybody's like, oh, I got to go to math,
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, what if just math is just sit there and... I'm like, okay. How do I change the narrative?
Yeah.
How can I make math fun? I haven't figured it out yet at all, but I have some ideas.
Well, what got you into that? What made you want to be a math teacher?
So I had a moment in high school where I kind of knew. I always enjoyed math growing up. I liked having one solution.
Okay.
So like being able to solve a problem, and I know I'm right or wrong as soon as I do it, And so I've always kind of had that, and math fulfilled that for me. And I always wanted to be a coach. Well, I didn't always want to be, but my junior year, I taught 8th grade junior high boys fall ball as a volunteer.
Yeah.
And it was like the third practice, and I came home to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I want to be a teacher. And she was like, what? I thought you didn't know what you wanted to do. I'm like, I've seen these kids grow so much in 3 days. It was just amazing to me. Like it was amazing. It was fulfilling, and I was like, "That's it."
That's your past.
Yeah, and I wanted to do something in the social works. So I've always had this feeling that I need to do more for others than I do for myself, and that's something I kind of live by, and I try to make that a conscious decision. If I'm feeling tired or something, and friends like, oh, well, you mind doing this with me, or you mind help me out here? I'm like, frick, I don't want to do this. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely, I will. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying to still navigate.
You want to teach back here, or are you going to just kind of wherever you get a job, or a particular area you want to work in? Or?
So I don't want to teach in Missouri. Right. So I still want to stay there.
Yeah.
As of now, it's just too far away from my family. I've had some homesickness where I'm like, I need to be at least within driving distance. So I will be in the Pacific Northwest when I, settle down. I'm looking at my master's program in like a Spokane area.
Oh, okay. Actual seasons then.
Yeah.
It's the actual seasons.
Not just rain in summer.
Yeah, 100% right.
Well, yeah. 90% rain,
Yeah.
10% summer.
But when it's nice here, and everything's nice and green. So
Yeah, that's one thing about
positive for it.
Missouri, is it's so dead and brown, and it's like a little bit gloomy almost. And like here, it's green all the time,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Fresh
Yeah,
air.
really makes me appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what was your high school experience like?
It was pretty decent. We had a kind of an eclectic group that I ran around with. The group that I hung around with, none of us were really into sports at all. We weren't into the outdoors. We weren't into most things that the kids around here were. So we had just kind of an interesting group of people, I guess, that from all different type of family backgrounds and whatnot. But we weren't the typical small town people with our activities.
So, I mean, what sports were you playing?
The only sport that I did was I did track through 4 years. I did basketball, but I retired my jersey in the 8th grade. That was decided that was not my path. That was not something that I was great to do. But I did track for 4 years, and I was in the band for 4 years, and that was basically it.
Nice. I did band too.
What'd you play?
Well, I started out as a trumpet.
Nice.
For all the way through elementary school, and my 7th grade year, I only did it till my freshman year, but 7th grade year I switched to the baritone.
Yeah.
And it was just so much easier.
Trumpets, that's what I played, was the trumpet. And I can still play. Not very good, but I can still play.
Not like it used to be.
Not like I used to, but I can still play.
You ever pick it up every once in a while?
I do. For a Christmas present quite a few years ago, somebody bought me a trumpet. So I have that. So I can play every now and then. I'm not great at it, but actually, kind of a side note, one year, I don't know if you ever knew Mr. Lund. Did you ever know him? So he was a teacher at Raymond that was the band teacher, great guy. He passed a couple years ago, but he had a whole bunch of us come for like an alumni night at a basketball game.
Oh,
so
nice.
A bunch of us all got together and played a couple songs. It was super cool. It was super, super cool. A bunch of band geeks just
that's special
jamming.
too, you know, bringing people
cool.
back like that. That's, yeah.
It was really cool. My friend Ian, he did a 5-minute intro into We Got the Beat, because he played the drums. It was like the coolest thing ever, at least to me anyway.
Yeah.
That's band geeks. That was amazing. But I don't know if anybody else who wanted to start the game thought it was cool. But
You guys had a pretty good band program?
we did back then. It was huge. There was, I don't know, 20 people or so probably.
Oh,
it was.
nice.
I mean, for us, it was big. It was popular.
Yeah,
But
our band was always like that too.
now it's
like,
kind of taking a real.
it's
dive.
not. I don't see as many people.
No, I don't know why that is. I don't know, but I don't know.
And I've been subbing at school at Valley the last month or so, and I went in there and they have bass guitars and banjo.
wow.
I'm like, where was this?
Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's something
That's super
different,
cool.
which is, gives kids options.
Yeah, totally.
I think that'd be cool to learn too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Bass guitar, that'd be amazing. Everyone wanted to play the drums though, right?
Yeah,
That's what everyone
everybody
did.
at one point wanted to play the drums.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's my thing. Maybe the drums. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, I always thought about doing the drums, and that was like my plan. And then I was like, I don't want to buy drums. I am going to do the trumpet, which we already have, so I would do that.
Perfect. Absolute perfect. Yeah. It takes up less space too.
Yeah. So in high school, did you know what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, I've always wanted to know I've always known for as long as I can remember, I knew what I wanted to do.
Really?
Actually, quite early on, I wanted to be a police officer because I thought that was like the coolest job in the world. And my neighbor was a police officer, and I would go every weekend. I was in 7th and 8th grade. Every weekend, I would go do ride-alongs with him.
Oh, wow.
So every Friday and Saturday, I would hop in his police car with him and just spend Friday and Saturday nights out patrolling with him. And I thought it was like the coolest thing in the entire world. I absolutely loved it. And then one weekend, I wasn't able to ride with him. So he's like, hey, you can go hang around the fire station if you want. You can go up there. So I went up there and just absolutely fell in love with it. So that was end of 8th grade. And I knew that was a career path for me. So that's pretty much what I sought after that.
Was it anything particular that was like, oh, what the heck, I got to do
I think it was just the whole family atmosphere of it. I walk up there and there's, a bunch of guys that are sitting around hucking it up together. They're playing pool, they're watching TV. They all super funny, nice, welcoming, warm people. And it felt like home as soon as I walked through the door. It was like, this is the the coolest thing in the entire world.
Yeah, I mean you have to have that camaraderie too.
100%. And I just got that from day one, and then I was able to talk the then fire chief Tom Petrozoff into letting me move in there as a resident firefighter in my junior year in high school. So
Wow.
I lived there my junior and senior years, and then they started putting me through training. So I think I started hanging around the fire station when I was like 14.
Oh wow! So you've really been doing it
I was for a long, so that's like 30 years. I've been in the fire, essentially one way or the other in the fire department. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
In high school, so you were still going to school and such.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it just like after school? You just go hang out there?
Well, we were able to, like when I moved in there, so they had a resident firefighter program, so I lived there full time.
Okay.
So that's just where I lived. So then, I go to school in the mornings, and I did work release there too. So 2 periods a day, I was able to hang out down there, and I'd wash the medic units and the engines and go on calls with them. And I don't think that's necessarily allowed now. Back then, 30 years ago, it was a little more loosey-goosey with the rules. So I think I did CPR on my first person when I was like 15.
Oh wow!
On my first cardiac arrest, I went with the guys, and I remember that very clearly. I can still picture the house where it's at, but I remember they gave me some uniform jacket. I thought it was like super cool. I was wearing that, and I went to this call. I was in there doing CPR on this guy some older gentleman that had passed at 15 years old, and thought it was just like the coolest thing in the world.
Can you kind of walk me through the situation? Like, so you're 15, you got this job, and they're like, "There's a guy in cardiac arrest. Go for it."
Yeah, I mean, like they'd put me through some sort of training in the sense of I knew roughly. I'd gone on quite a few calls before that, so the progression of most calls, the responses that we would go on, the progression were pretty much the same. I mean, you carry the same equipment in, you're doing the same assessments on people, so it's pretty much the progression of every calls is the same. Some are just more serious than others. So that's the first person I'd ever seen like that, but I'd had the training somewhat to know somewhat to do. And like I said, back then the rules were a little less stringent what they are now. So it's kind of like almost on the job type of training. Like, hey, this is how you do CPR. Okay, do it. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And that was the first time I saw somebody get what they call defibrillated. So shocked, mm-hmm. right? So they took the paddles, they rub them together, and they jolt somebody. So like, I was hooked. I thought that was just like the coolest thing in the world. And the guy didn't survive, but like watching these medics and other guys just like be like heroes in my mind of like doing these procedures to this person. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And
that is what I'm going to do.
That's such a necessary job.
Oh, it's an amazing job. I still, every day that I go to work, I'm still amazed that I do it.
You get like super amped up.
100% amped up, and I get like super happy when I'm at work, and I absolutely love it. It's like every day is like, wow, I get to do this. This is super cool.
Yeah, that's pretty special that you're able to realize, the opportunity that you have and be grateful, which is...
It's very blessed. I recently switched, though, from Raymond. So I was at Raymond for 22 years, and then I completely started over, and I've been at Lacy for just over a year.
So were you like put at the bottom of the
very
pole?
bottom. So I went from Raymond, where I was at the very, very top seniority, top pay, top vacation, top sick leave, top everything, was a captain and a MSO, trained a bunch of stuff, and basically started at Lacy as nobody. And that has been the hardest thing I've ever done with my life.
Was it like a culture shock?
Yeah, I mean, you go from Raymond with a full-time staff is, I think when they were at full staff was 10 people, mm-hmm. and Lacy's 140 over 5 stations. Raymond has 1 station, there's 5 up there, and it's a whole other world.
Are you still at the same, like go to the same station every morning, or is it like, oh, you're here today?
There's 5 total stations, and 3 of them are medic stations. So being a paramedic, I work on a medic unit. So 3 of the stations are medic unit stations. So I rotate between the 3 different stations. So I'll spend a couple months at one station and rotate to another one, and then rotate to another one. Or if somebody's out sick or whatever, then they'll plug me into a different spot. But
and what are your hours? Are you doing like the 72 or what's?
We work 24 on, so 1 on, 2 off, 1 on, 4 off.
Okay.
So it's a really great schedule.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's pretty dynamite. But like I said, it's been a really interesting switch.
What was like the hardest thing?
I think the hardest thing for me was going from down here, where I had spent years and years building relationships and years of getting respect and clout and what we call career equity, right? So you know everybody and you've got a good reputation and you can, you just made a name for yourself. And then to go from being somebody somewhat, so being a medium-sized fish in a small pond, to going up there where nobody knows you, you have no relationships whatsoever, you have no reputation, you have no respect, you have nothing. You're just like, just a number. That was the hardest part. I think that was a big blow to my ego, I think.
Right.
It was the biggest humbling experience.
Yeah, very makes you, humbling a little bit.
Very, very humbling. That's the hardest part, I think, is being super humbled in the sense that, have all the years of experience, but not in that particular department. So nobody knows anything about you.
So what are you kind of doing to build that back up, just kind of being yourself?
Yeah, I think that it's a lot of just trying to bring a positive attitude when you show up that you're a hard worker. Just, I guess, being myself, and hopefully I can build a good reputation for being a good guy, working hard and trying to, hone in my skills so I'm known as a good firefighter and a good paramedic. And I mean, in some senses, it works out better because, like I said, I started down here at Raymond when I was like 14, 15 years old, right? So there's a lot of guys that only viewed me as that 15-year-old or that 14-year-old. Mm-hmm. So every mistake that I made from 14 until I left at, 43 was carried with me. Up there, I just started a 44-year-old firefighter paramedic, and then I could rebuild my brand if I wanted to rebuild myself. So that's a positive side of it. It's just very stressful.
Yeah. How do you balance that whole stress? And did you move up there, I'm guessing?
No, I live down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because you can commute with the 24-hour shifts, then I can commute. And I thought I would hate the commute, but actually it's a really nice, I leave my house around 5, and so that hour and 20-minute drive is like the perfect amount of time to get mentally prepared for work. So by the time I get there, my head's nice and clear, and I'm excited, and I'm pumped, and I'm ready to go. And then if I have a shift that's extremely stressful, or just life in general stressful from switching everything around, that hour and 20-minute drive home is perfect for decompressing. So by the time I get home, I'm like clear and headed, and so.
Is there anything that goes in your mind to get you ready or to get you amped up or anything like that? Or is it just like breathing and trying to stay clear? Or?
Yeah, I think that, it's hard. One of the great parts about the job is the fact that it's something different every day. And if you have a personality that's like mine where you can't focus on one thing for very long, or, you're distracted easily, or, almost like an ADD type of situation, it's a perfect job because it's something different all the time. And it's like an adrenaline rush every day of different things that you get to do. So I don't know if there's one particular way to prepare for that, only just knowing that anything could happen.
Right.
And it's just going to be, any day you go to work, it's going to be interesting. And it's going to be something different. And it could be, it could be the busiest, craziest experience of your life, or it could be super slow and you're just going to kind of hang out. So you just never know. The anticipation of it is.
It seemed to be a lot more busy up there than it was in Raymond?
It's a whole other job and a whole other system. Down here, it's busy. It's actually almost busier down here for what I did down here versus what I do up there. Down here, our fire department does combination of BLS, which is basic life support calls, and ALS calls, which is advanced life support calls. Up there at Lacy, we're only doing ALS, advanced life support calls. It's the only ones that the medics go on. So we don't necessarily have as large of a volume as they do down here because they're doing both types of calls. So it's slower on some days, but overall numbers wise it's busier. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
And is there like a certain area that's like the worst, and there's like
I think it actually doesn't, not particularly, it just depends on the day really. There could be, and even the days of the week doesn't really make a difference. There could be a Tuesday afternoon you're super slammed, and then a Saturday evening is completely dead. So it doesn't, and anywhere you're at, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Is there like night times are the worst or anything?
No, again, it just kind of all depends. There's been shifts that I've worked up there where I've been up all night long for calls, and other shifts where I've just slept all through the night. And some shifts where there's 14 calls, and some shifts where there's 1 call. You just never know. That's one of the great things about the job too, is you show up to work and you never know what you're going to get.
Is it pretty much, you get your stuff ready, you get the whole place ready to go, and then you're just hanging out or sleeping until something comes in?
Well, typically the routine, the way that it goes is we get there, we do the unit checks on our medic unit, do a few other little daily duties, and then there's a lot of being new. There's a lot of classes and training and stuff that's constant. So most of the times during the day, if we're not on responses, then I'm studying something or I'm looking up something, or there's a class or some sort of physical training or something. There's always something to do. After a certain period of time in the evening, around 4 or 5 o'clock, then it's kind of your free time that, you have dinner, and then after that you can do a workout if you want to, then you go to bed.
I'm sure you're hitting that gym.
All the time. That's what we're really blessed with up at Lacy. Some of the stations have really, really nice gyms, really nice equipment, and they promote physical and mental fitness.
Well, as they should,
Yeah.
Physical and mental, they are hand in hand. So.
100%. That's why I spend so much time in the gym down here too. It's a nice decompression.
Right.
Really nice decompression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right after high school, just jumped right in?
Yeah, I went through the EMT class up in Aberdeen, which was like 3 months as soon as I graduated, and then I spent about a year as a EMT volunteer, and then I went through paramedic school down in Portland for just under 2 years, and then worked down in Astoria as a paramedic, and then worked in Tacoma as a paramedic for about a year before I came back down here.
Okay, so you kind of jumped around a little bit.
Yeah, and I always wanted to be here. I liked the small town atmosphere, and I wanted to kind of give back to the community, and I liked living here, so I always knew this is where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Plus, something like Tom Petrozoff, who was my fire chief, he was kind of like a father figure to me. So I always wanted to come back and work for him and serve him, for lack of a better term.
That's
so
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about the gym a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've seen you in there just going crazy a lot. So tell me about your competitive nature and how that has helped you excel in all aspects of life.
I don't think necessarily I'm a competitive person unless, well, I guess this kind of goes, the definition of competitive, unless I'm with somebody and then I feel I just have to beat them for whatever reason. I mean, if I'm by myself in the gym, I don't particularly have too many goals for myself. I have a workout plan that I've written, but if there's somebody who's there with me, then I have to outdo them. I just have, not necessarily lift heavier than them, I just have to last longer or be there longer. And that's kind of one of the little things I do at the gym too. If I'm at the gym and I see somebody come in, I have to stay there longer than that person. So I will outlast them to make sure that I got there before them and I left after them. Just because it's just one of the things that I like to do. So
that's a very good goal too. And do you do that at the fire station too? You see someone?
No, I'm not too competitive. I think that with work is that you get to a certain. So I'm in my 23rd year as a paramedic, and I'm kind of at the point in my career now where I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I'm perfectly fine with what I don't know. And I'm perfectly humbled. I know that I don't have to prove myself to anybody. I know that I don't have to know more than every single person. So I'm very comfortable asking for help. And so in my job, I'm very, very humble, not competitive whatsoever.
Gotcha.
But outside of that, then, yeah.
You talked about knowing what you don't know. Are you seeking to learn those things, or is it just like, I'm just going to accept it?
It's a constant learning situation. That was one of the biggest things from moving from Raymond to Lacy, is that they are very big on education. Not that Raymond wasn't, but I learned it very quickly when I got up there what I didn't know. And that was one of the more humbling things as well. So, but they're good at promoting that. They're good at promoting education. They're good at promoting training. So it's a constant learning battle.
Yeah.
I mean, every day that I'm up there, it's learning something new, whether it be how this medication works or how this body system works or whatever it is. So it's a constant learning process. There's
so much you got to know. I don't even know how you keep that all in there.
It definitely, and the weird part is the more things change, the more they stay the same. So when I first became a paramedic, certain medications that we used, they went away for like 15 years, and now all of a sudden, poof, they're back, and they're the greatest thing in the world. Or for the last 15 years, they were terrible. Now they're back again. So it's interesting to kind of see that, evolution of medicine and different procedures. So that's kind of interesting.
Do they tell you why they changed it?
Just
I don't know.
It's just like studies that they do. They find, oh, this works and that wasn't working. Or, when I first started, the drug sequence for different procedures and stuff that we did was a lot more complicated than it is now. And it was a lot more intense than what it is now. And it focused a lot more on individual people just knowing it and not necessarily getting help from other people. Now it's more more of the medicine and different things are more of a team-based approach to different things where you rely on your partner a lot to kind of bounce things off of. So it's not so much of an ego thing, I guess, so to speak, that you're really working as a team.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I have a really hard problem with, not to get into politics or anything, but like the funding and such that comes from big companies that push, for these certain medications and like, did they talk to somebody or did they get this back in here or why did this suddenly come back 20 years? You know, I don't know. I just, maybe I have trust issues or something. I don't know. I don't know.
I think a lot of our stuff comes out of, like a lot of stuff that we do, at least in our department or in the Washington, comes out of Seattle Fire Department does a ton of. They're like the pilot program for a lot of different things. There are a lot of studies are done by them for a lot of different things as to like CPR compression and ventilation ratios or medication for this or medication for, they do a lot of studies that way. So we benefit from that. So that's pretty cool.
So they have like a controlled group or are they more of like, I'm going to use this in the field?
I think they're going to they find different ways to use it in the field, I guess. It's from my understanding. I'm not like super educated on that kind of thing, but at least that's my understanding is why a lot of the changes come about, at least for us.
Are they like available to you to see the studies and such?
I think so. I've never quite honestly looked them up beyond the fact of, hey, this is what has come out of this. This is what you're going to do. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, not like you have an option in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have much say in it, but I haven't looked it up too much. But like I said, it's really interesting the way that things have circled back around, how things have changed over the last 20 years. It's been it's pretty interesting.
That's cool that you're able to see that though,
And I love being the old guy too that tells the stories of like, some young paramedic will say blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, oh, back when I started, or we used to, or we used to do this. And
back in my day.
Back in my day, yeah. That's kind of
the classic saying.
That's the only thing I have is some sort of a equity that way at the new job is to be able to say, hey, back when I used to do it this way, but.
Do still some of the young guys come up and ask you certain things even though that you're new?
Not necessarily up there because I'm so low down on the seniority list and everybody knows that I'm brand new, so not too many people. The only thing I'll get occasionally is a question about how small town fire departments work or small town medicine and our long transports and things. I'll get questions about that, but more so when I was down here, when I started, or when the new people would start, I get a lot of questions as to how things work, but not so much up there.
So I'm assuming you have some higher ups that are younger than you?
Oh yeah.
Does that affect you in any way, like seeing commands or anything like that?
Like again, that kind of comes back to the whole humbling type of situation of just trying to accept your reality that it is. In all reality, there's guys that have been in the department up there for 3 or 4 years that are 26 years old, and they're my senior people. They're my supervisors or whatever. A couple like lieutenants or something that are early 30s. And here I'm in my mid 40s and I'm their inferior, which is great. I mean, those guys are amazing. They have amazing talents and, education, all sorts of stuff that I never had. But it definitely is an interesting dynamic. It's definitely humbling is a word I keep on coming back to try to tell myself that it's one of those, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger type of situation. But definitely is the most challenging thing I've ever done, ever. But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So you were married first?
Yes.
And you had a daughter?
Yes, just turned 16.
Just turned 16. So
yeah,
not too long ago, but and you went through a divorce, correct?
Yeah, I was married for 5 years.
5 years.
I got divorced. Yeah.
How did that divorce affect your child, and how young was she when that happened?
So she was, let's see, I think she was like 2.
2. Oh,
so she was pretty young. So the current marriage and current situation is all she's pretty much ever known and been used to. So she adjusted pretty well, and then her mom and I are really good friends, so that there's no animosity or anything that way. So it
which
actually,
is cool.
So I mean that it's pretty seamless for the most part, as far as she knows, is pretty seamless.
So when she was growing up, was it like bouncing back from houses to houses, or?
Well, that's one of the good things that her mom and I always had a good relationship with the custody of her, is that theoretically there's a parenting plan somewhere, but as soon as we signed it and we got divorced, it went in a drawer, never saw it again. So it's always just kind of been what was going to be the most convenient. So, if our daughter wanted to go with her mom and do something, okay, fine. She wanted to come to my house, okay, that's fine. We just never, it just kind of went on our work schedules too, so we never really had a plan necessarily. We weren't one of those week on, week off, holidays with this person and holidays with this person. It never really was like that.
Did you guys didn't really have like a schedule, like a weekly schedule or anything?
No, because her mom also is a firefighter too.
Oh,
so
wow.
she did the same kind of schedule. So, even if we were to come up with have a parenting plan, it would have been super wonky and super hard to follow with working 24-hour shifts and rotating each other. It would have been kind of
That's cool that you guys are still able to work together like that.
Yeah, we co-parent really well together, which is really cool. It's really helpful for our daughter.
Yeah, and you guys have any like family meetings ever?
No, but we do a lot of family dinners together. We've gone on trips together. We float in and out of each other's houses, just kind of like whatever. We're good friends, and we don't ever really fight or anything. It's just kind of always been somewhat civil.
And what was the, if you don't mind me asking, the force that kind of drove it apart?
That drove the marriage apart?
Yeah.
Well, we got divorced because I came out, and I had met a man that kind of brought that, not out in me, I guess that's kind of a wrong term, but so being homosexual is what caused the end of the first divorce. And
what was like, it was just like, I don't know, you didn't bring it out of you said, but like what was the attraction? How did it shift?
Well, I think that quite honestly, the way that it went is that growing up in a small town here, it's not exactly the most accepting.
Yeah.
Right? And especially in the early 90s, it really wasn't an accepting kind of place. And I always knew I always knew that I was gay, but a lot of that just got kind of suppressed because I didn't ever think I'd be accepted or successful in this town or in that particular career if I was out. I just didn't think that was going to be a thing, especially with the fire service being a predominantly male, masculine, testosterone-filled profession. There's no way in the world that I'm going to be accepted.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. So I just did what I thought that everybody does, is that you get a job, you get married, you have a kid. And that's what you do. I decided that's just what I was going to do. That's just how it goes. And nothing against my ex-wife, because she's amazing and a nice person, just absolutely fantastic. And but that's just kind of the way that I figured that's just what you do. Mm-hmm. And I obviously cared for my ex-wife. She's a very lovely, perfect person. Didn't deserve to get down into that, what I put her through. But I just figured that's what you do with your life. And you just kind of suppress it. And that's what I figured I would do now until forever. It's like, forever is not that long. I can just suppress it for my entire life. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
Did you know at like a super young age?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for as long as I could remember. Yeah.
But you just kind of
like, nope, I'll just kind of squish that down. And the funny part is that, and I think it's complete BS, is that once I did come out, a lot of people were like, oh, I always knew. I'm like, you didn't. Yeah. Like, you're trying to pretend like you did, like you knew something, but there's no way in the world, no way.
Yeah, especially when someone is married, you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah, no, that wasn't the case. And I never said a breathed a word to anybody, ever.
Right. There
was nobody in my life that I ever uttered those words to at all, ever.
That's crazy, because I'm a person that has to talk about things and for solutions. Like, when I moved to Missouri and I was by myself, I started journaling because I would have all these thoughts and they get so piled up I just want to explode. Yeah. So I picked up journaling, thanks to a friend's advice. And that was my way of calming down, because I didn't have someone if I'm gonna have a deep conversation and talk about my problems with someone, it's gonna be with my sisters. That's it.
Someone you're super close with.
Yeah, someone that's I've been with since my birth. So
yeah.
Is there any way you were there? It's hard for me to fathom being able to suppress something for that long.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. I guess you just kind of day by day you do, and then eventually it just becomes the norm, right? That's just kind of what you do, and it just days turned into weeks, which turned into years, and that's just like I said, I planned on that's just the way life was going to be. and that's how it was going to go, and I'd be fine. I mean, I was perfectly happy.
Yeah.
But not knowing what happiness actually could be.
Right.
Quite honestly. And, once everything kind of came out and I came out and people's reactions weren't nearly what I thought they were going to be. I thought it was going to be some big, huge, like, oh my God, like pitchforks coming after me type of situations. But quite honestly, when it all transpired, nobody really cared.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, nobody did.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're still you.
Yeah, they were
you
all
still
like,
have your same values and stuff.
Like, okay, anyway, and they just moved on. I'm like, oh well,
Right.
crap. Like, I thought all this was gonna be like some huge, huge kind of whatever. Matter of fact, kind of a funny side story with that. When I did come out, one of my ex-girlfriends, she had gotten divorced, and I asked her out to lunch so I could tell her the whole experience and everything. And so when I called her up, not knowing that she had just got divorced, she was thinking, oh great, I heard Jason's getting divorced and now I'm getting divorced. He's gonna make some play for me. Here it comes.
Yeah.
So we went out to lunch, and so I told her, and she's like, damn it. I'm like, oh man, are you upset about it? She's like, no, I thought you were gonna make a play for me again. Now this is not what I thought it was gonna be. I don't care that you're gay. It's just, now it just bums me out that you weren't trying to make a play for me. It's like, yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, you're just still the same person. You're still the same morals, and
10 times happier now than, it's an interesting thing is that you think that you're happy, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, this is what happiness looks like. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. That's what it's supposed to be.
you had like a suppressed.
Yeah, suppressed happiness. Like I
Yeah.
was happy, but like, oh, I could be really happy. Like,
Yeah.
I could be really calm, Like I said, people's reactions, they really didn't care. They're like, anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, crap. Son of a bitch.
Do you think if you would have came out younger, would that have had any different effect?
I don't know. I think that, everything kind of happens for a reason, and I got my daughter out of the situation. She would never have been born, and I don't know where I would have ended up one way or the other. There's part of me that really wishes that I would have come out earlier, but I had some friends that came out like when they were in high school and their lives were not fantastic, and they were tortured and they were made fun of, and they ended up moving way out of town and just like the heck with that place. So I didn't necessarily want that experience at all.
I can definitely see it with, especially young men.
Oh yeah,
It's a cruel place, especially seeing high school from a different angle.
Oh, totally. And around here, now this town's very accepting, very accommodating, and it's not even a thing. It's kind of like, whatever. So,
have you experienced any sort of like discrimination or anything, and if so, in what ways?
No, actually, it's kind of been the opposite. I think this town accepted me, like I said, in a way that I never thought they would. It's really quite amazing, really. I don't think that I've had maybe one person that's used some, slur or something towards me. I think I had like a long time ago when I first came out, I got a couple phone calls from somebody and they just, would throw some sort of slur or something my way, but I had no clue who in the world they were. And it was only a couple times, but outside of that, everybody's been like super fantastic and nice and accepting, and I just have never had to go through that, and it's awful that some people have to. I mean, it's absolutely awful. My parents were both accepting. They're like, okay,
Right.
So I mean, like, the rest of my family, my friends, they're all perfect. So I've never really had that whole.
Yeah, which is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, I was like perfectly cool with it. Like Hollywood was perfectly fine, and I've never really had that. It's sad when other people have to go through that, but I've been perfectly fine.
When those couple of people did make those slurs, how did that affect you? Did it bring you down quite a bit, or is it like just?
No, I mean, I really don't. It didn't affect me. That's their problem, not mine.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I mean, if somebody wants to think that way, if somebody wants to behave that way, that's on them, not on me. I mean, for the most part, that kind of stuff when that happens, it just doesn't. It never has really bothered me. I mean, it's not right, obviously, but it never really has bothered me.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, whatever. Words only mean something if you give them weight, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't give any weight to it or any thought to it, then it just kind of dissipates.
Yeah.
And plus, I've always kind of joked with my friends too. If somebody's going to use some sort of gay slur against me, I'm like, they need to get more creative. quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if somebody's to come up to me and call me gay or like whatever, I'm like, well, yeah, I am. Like, okay, think of something better. Like, go deep, you know, insult my intelligence or something, or get in there deep and think of something creative. Don't be so shallow with like, oh, hey, you're pale and have big ears. You're like, yeah, okay, then what? Like, come on, man, put some effort into it, honestly. Like, yeah, something that's not true. Get in there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's pretty shallow and yeah, put some thought into it, really. But
That's cool. I've been reading this. I just picked it up. I listened to a book review on it, and then I ordered it and picked it up. And it's Born in Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And so he was born a slave, and then like came out of it at a young boy, like, I don't know, I can't remember, it was like 14 or 15 when the whole thing happened. And then it was like him trying to get a job and all this, and like there's like, he talks about experiences when he's seen this, and he was like, okay, like you said, didn't give weight to any of it,
yeah,
and would just kind of prove people wrong in other ways, like, I'm still human,
yeah,
and I'm just gonna be better than you.
yeah.
And it's like a truly remarkable story to listen
Yeah.
to, and it's like, how do you not take any effect of that? But he was just.
It takes I think it takes a pretty strong person to do that, especially in that end. I mean, that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really hardcore.
But I think we can learn from hardcore situations like that.
Oh, totally.
And things like that. So that's why that was one of my oldest books that
Yeah.
that I picked up.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how has in your career, how has being a firefighter and paramedic changed throughout your career?
Oh boy, it has.
Quick break. So how has being a firefighter and an EMT changed throughout your career?
Well, like I said, when I first started, I think there was a lot more medications, a lot more options, a lot more treatment regimens. And I think over the last how many years it's gotten more simplified and a lot more effective. But then again, some medications have started and then circled back around and came back around after they were unpopular for a period of time. Other than that, I mean, when I first started when I became a firefighter, it was super competitive, like super competitive. Like when you test for a paramedic job, you test against, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 people for one spot. Now, for whatever reason, there's an extreme shortage of paramedics. So if you're a paramedic, you can pretty much work wherever you want.
I wonder why that.
I think it's because like the fire service and actually being the paramedic side of it isn't actually that old of a career. And you're hitting the point now where it was like super popular 30 years ago when it first started, 35 years ago. And so now all those people that started that are starting to retire. So you get that big wave of people that are retiring. There's not enough people to fill up that spot. So I think
that kind of makes sense.
And I think you have a lot of departments too that are growing in size. So they're hiring a lot more, but there's just not enough people to fill those particular spots.
Yeah.
The ones that really suffer are the small town departments like Raymond, because if you move to the bigger departments, like in the I-5 corridor or something, they're paying a substantial amount more money for less work and more prestige and everything. So your smaller departments are ones that are really, really kind of suffering from that.
Yeah, and I don't even know how do we, besides pay more taxes for it, but that's
pay is the thing. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah.
The only people that you get, and I don't want this to sound in a negative way, but the people that you keep in smaller departments are the ones that want to be loyal to their town and want to serve their community. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily doing it for the pay, because you can make a substantial more going someplace else. But in most of the smaller departments, especially this one here, if you look at the people that work at our department down here, are all people that grew up here. They're all ones that, they started the fire department young and just kind of worked their way up, and they're all local people because they want to stay here and they want to support their communities.
Was that your main driving switch, was the pay was so...
Yeah, I think that then I'd gotten to a point down here too where I was maxed out on everything. I wasn't going to go any further.
There was no sense of growth or anything?
No, I wasn't going to promote any higher. I wasn't going to get any more vacation or any more sick leave or any more pay. I was just topped out at everything. And you get to the point too where you get kind of stagnant, right? You get too comfortable and too, just stagnant, I guess. And then you're not challenging yourself anymore. You just get in neutral and you just kind of coasting through, and then the new opportunity presented itself through a series of different things. And thought, oh, wow, that could be a whole new challenge in life.
So did you kind of feel yourself getting comfortable, and then you're like, I got to make a change here?
Yeah, I think that I got super comfortable, and that was one of the biggest changes too from going up there, is that I was so comfortable here, and then up there is not being comfortable whatsoever, and actually having to be wow. There was just a whole bunch of teeny little things that I felt that I'd accomplished everything that I was going to here, and that it was just time to. But I'd be lying if I had said that financial wasn't a decider in it too. I mean, honestly, people who say I don't do this job for money are kind of full of crap, because you got to pay your bills somehow or another.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the way that.
Unless you got someone up there that's making a whole lot of bread on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's cool.
And I didn't. The guys that work there are fantastic and terrific people, and had nothing to do with that. It was just it's time for a change.
Which is cool.
And that's what you do at 44 years old, when you're 3/4 of the way through your career, right? You start completely over.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, start over on probation, where you could lose your job at any second, and it's anyway.
It's a good way to keep you sharp.
It's a good way to keep you sharp, to force you to stay sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I remember one day we were in the gym, and you said that you had never been late.
Yeah. Oh, to work?
To work.
Yeah, never.
So how do you keep that kind of discipline?
Oh, wow. That's good. That's a huge stress thing that I'm always one of those people that's early to be early. And I've never ever been late once to work. It's just one of those things, I guess, that just a super nervous guy in general. And that would just add to it. Especially now with the new job, I think you get maybe one free pass, and after that you're gone.
Right.
So, but just down here, it was so much simpler because I live 5 minutes from the station. But yeah, never once to any job have I ever been late. Just how I'm wired, I guess.
That's fascinating. That's cool.
Always early to be early. So the people that show up right at the buzzer to work drive me bananas. That if we start work at 7:30 and they're rolling in the door at 7:29 and 59 seconds, I'm like, oh, that's so yikes. But yeah, that was something probably instilled from my dad too, is that he's always early to be early. And that's just kind of how we operate. When I worked down here, I would get to work at the very, very latest 45 minutes before work started.
Oh, wow.
And I tried it when I'm at work up at Lacy. I try to get there usually, 45 minutes or an hour before work starts. Just so I make sure I'm there.
Yeah, you're the first one in the door.
I'm the first one ready to go.
And the people recognize that for sure.
Oh, for sure. That's trying to if you want to try to build a name for yourself too, that's a good way to do it as well. It's hey, be the guy that it's early. So if a call comes in close to shift, you're there to take it. Get somebody stuck on a call. But I will say that on the flip side of it, I'm always early to work, but as soon as that clock punches 7:30, I'm out the door. When I worked down here at 8 o'clock, it was I'm out the door at 8 because I want to be at the gym by 8:08 because that's how long it takes me to drive there.
Yeah.
So I am off right at 8. I'm out the door, dressed, car running, off I go. But they're early, but I'm right at time. I'm right out of there at 8.
Yeah, well, you're already putting in an extra hour anyway, so it makes up for itself.
Makes up for itself, yeah.
And I'm sure you would pick up the extra 20 minutes if somebody asked you to do something anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
in a heartbeat.
That's just the giving nature in there.
Yeah.
I know you've seen some horrific situations as a paramedic. How does it affect you, and how do you keep your mind sharp and on task?
I think that a lot of it, you got to find some sort of an outlet. I think that you'll find with a lot of firefighters that they have secondary jobs that they do or something else that they're extremes in one way or the other. A lot of firefighters do things like climb mountains or go whitewater rafting or something that kind of takes the place of the same kind of adrenaline rush, I think. And a lot of firefighters are really fit too, because a lot of firefighters spend a lot of time in the gym too to offset that type of stress. But also I think on the flip side of that, we're really good at just suppressing things down. You just see it and just push it down. And I think that there's a lot of psychological issues with firefighters too as they get older. And there's a lot of emphasis now on the mental health of firefighters is actually a pretty big push right now the last couple of years, is the well-being of firefighters mentally, because of so many years of suppressing everything, so many years of ignoring everything. And when I first started, it was, if you had a bad shift, the advice was, I'll just go home and have a drink, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's gone by the wayside, thank God, over the last 10 years or so.
So that's like the complete opposite
exactly.
effect of what you're
100%
looking for.
of what you should be doing is go home and have a drink to push it down. But I think that, I don't know, that's a very good question. I think it's all just kind of squished down or, pushed someplace else, and I'm sure it'll manifest itself at some point, and I'll come bubbling out.
What kind of, like in the trainings and such, what do they have you talking about or doing or anything like that?
They really encourage going to therapy. They really encourage, a lot of firefighters do. I know I see a therapist up in Olympia. The only people she sees are firefighters and police officers.
Okay.
So I go to her on a fairly frequent basis, which really, really helps. The good thing about being up in the department up at Lacy that has, they have large budgets, they have a lot of room to be able to do stuff, but they focus a lot on mental health. They bring in people to talk, they do classes like every other month on mental health, and they're very open in talking about issues that way. And if you need a mental health day, then they're encouraging you to take that off. And so they put a lot of focus on your mental health.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And
it's amazing.
Mental health is such a big area that it's hard. Like, to me, like, you can go mental health as into ways to get better, ways to learn more, ways to, like, I read a lot of David Goggins.
Oh yeah,
he's one of my favorite people of all time.
Yeah.
Just because he's so, be uncomfortable all the time in your life. Don't take no breaks. And one of the things he does is, like, I'm on the go 24 hours a day. Besides, when I'm in the shower, I'm at a complete decompress. I think of nothing.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, I find when I'm eating, I think of nothing. I clear my head. I don't think about what I have to do, things to do. And I think that's a cool thing to think about in life, because there's always another task to be done.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
But you got to kind of find that time to empty your mind. And,
which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Which is super, super hard to do. But, yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of therapy, though. I think that in the stigma from it, I think is starting to go away. That was one thing with the fire service too, is I think that for such a long period of time is that having a sort of mental issue or showing that any particular call bothered you, then it was some sort of sign of weakness. But I think that has passed.
I hope that's being pushed out the door.
It's kind of like, and I'm actually kind of surprised from being up in the new department up at Lacy that, there's these big, huge firefighters, these big masculine, whatever guys, will sit in meetings and they're very open with their feelings, in touch with their feelings, and say, like, wow, that's really cool to see. Like, these guys are so in touch with them and not put any sort of stigma on it. Like, it's really cool. So it's a nice example for, the younger people, or even for me who's been around for a long time, going, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely more of an influence on the older generation that's kind of like seen it,
Yeah, for sure. It's really, it's interesting.
Because I remember when I was young, it was pretty much, that was the beginning of the counseling and therapy and having people to talk to and such, and it's just grown more and more. And,
for sure.
Now we're out there, my generation's
for sure
filled up the workforce.
Yeah.
So that's cool to see. I was really curious about that, what they had you doing, and
like they promote it. They have, and I think that the reason, I think they've had some people that have not fared so well mentally, and they've taken those lessons and been like, okay, what can we do to improve this? And they've really started a big push and a big program on our mental health, which is amazing.
So do they pay for your counseling?
It's covered by our insurance, but they don't. I mean, they provide like options and different things, and they have like on-site, like I don't think they're actually licensed counselors, but they have people that are there that can kind of guide us one way or the other as to what kind of help we can need, and they're amazing about that. Absolutely amazing. I mean, at the drop of a hat, if you're to say, hey, I'm having a bad day, they're right there. They're figuring out what they can do for you, how they can get you better, checking on you consistently. I mean, even that department, like, I had a really bad call here a few months ago, and as we're getting the medic unit cleaned up, the district chief and like our chaplain and some other people showed up to the hospital where we're cleaning our medic units. Okay, you guys are out of service for the next however long. You're going to decompress. You're going to make sure you're taken care of.
Oh, that's cool.
When the shift ended, okay, the whole entire shift's going out to breakfast with your supervisors. We're going to take care of you. And then for the next, 3 or 4 days, I got phone calls from 3 or 4 different people in the department saying, hey, just checking on you, making sure you're okay. Anything you need, what can we do to help you? So it's that kind of stuff that's like really like, wow, that's really cool. Like they actually care.
Talking about the counseling, was it hard to kind of open up to someone and talk about these things?
Not particularly for me because I'm a chatter and I'm very in tune with my feelings and I don't mind showing them whatsoever. Like I cry on a regular basis. Absolutely love to cry. So I have absolutely no problem talking to people. So perfectly fine with that. It wasn't. Plus the therapist I see, she's flipping amazing. So
right.
She's super cool. She's a retired narcotics detective out of Lacy. She drives a Camaro. It's got big, like, frizzy, bleach blonde hair. Wears, like, acid wash jeans and, like, just an old rocker from the 80s. She's got, like, Kiss and Poison posters in her office, signed. Goes to Vegas and hoops it up all the time. So she's super cool. Super, super cool gal.
That's cool. I was curious about that. And like, what kind of questions do they ask you? I'm just curious. If I had to talk to a student, that's going through some stuff, like what kind of questions could I pick up?
Like the therapist asks?
Yeah.
That's like, I'm trying to think what kind of stuff. I mean, I think she just kind of starts with, the basics. Why are you here? Kind of situations, or what kind of thoughts you're having, or is there anything particular that's triggering, or brings up maybe some examples of different people she sees and see if you can kind of relate to that. But I can't remember any particular things that I've been seeing her for so many years. I'm trying to think back of, usually if I'm having a bad day, she's super cool. If I'm having a bad day, I'll just text and say, bad day. And then she'll, if some call goes wrong or if I'm overwhelmed by something at work or whatever it is, I can just literally text her and say, bad day, need to talk. And then she'll hit me up immediately and we'll do like a Zoom or something.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
Technology right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And in the fire, like I said, in the fire service too, it's becoming so prevalent that there's like emergency numbers you can call and there's centers that are like back east someplace that I believe is like all covered. Like if I was having a super bad time, I could just make a phone call and then within however long I'd be on a plane back to someplace in some treatment center for however long it took. So
do you think the like the Zoom calls and such, is that any different than when you're in person? Because I know like for me, I got pretty bad homesickness when I was away. Yeah. And when I my parents would FaceTime every once in a while, my sisters or anything like that. And then that seemed to be a trigger almost for me. Like, that's when I would get, like, I'd be like, man, I wish I was there.
Yeah. I don't like the Zoom. I like being in person because I think if you're, especially in the for me, when you go to therapy, if you're in that office, then you're in that mindset. That's where you are, right? And that's the environment in which you're in, and it's a one-on-one type. There's no getting away from it, right? But if you're at your home or someplace Zooming, you're still in the same environment that might be overwhelming you, or you're still in the environment where you can't totally relax or be comfortable because there's other noises that are going on, or maybe somebody else is home or whatever, so you can't fully focus. And I can relate to people better too when I'm face-to-face with them. So I prefer the face-to-face. Zoom only like in a dire emergency, like if I need somebody like right then. Yeah. But outside of that, I think the personal contact and being in the presence of somebody is definitely 10 times better.
Which is why I'm a big AI negative person. I'm like, you can't have the same social interaction, and these people are needed in so many different ways that I'm like,
Yeah, 100%. It's harder to play to your audience too if you're not in person. To gauge other people's reactions and whatnot, you need that kind of one-on-one, like actually looking at somebody.
You get like a stress-free, like emotional feeling when you walk into her office, like it's almost like a habit now for it. It's like, okay, I'm comfortable now, I'm safe.
Yeah, 100%. I actually kind of relate it to, like if your car's making a squeak, and you take it to the mechanic, and as soon as you get there, it stops squeaking, So for me, like when I go to therapy, like if I'm having a bad day, super stressed and whatever, and I walk through the door to go into therapy, and I'm so relaxed and comfortable there that immediately I'm like, oh, crap, what was I depressed about? Yeah. What was I sad about? Because I'm in a good mood because you're cool and I like being here and your office is comfortable. Now, crap, what was I upset about again? So it takes a little bit to kind of drag it back out of you, but
That's cool though. That's really.
Yeah, and she's got this big couch that you sit on too that's like all scraped up, and she's like, yeah, a lot of gun belts have been on that.
Yeah.
That's why it's all scraped. There's a big bulldog that just kind of walks through and sits on your lap. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty homey and.
It's very homey.
Yeah, that's
very,
cool.
very cool. Yeah.
So what is the most important thing in your life right now?
Oh, it's easy. That'd be my daughter. 100%. My daughter and her safety and her success in life. That's an easy answer.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, that's like the easy go-to answer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like her name's my first tattoo that I got because I was like, that's the easiest, safest tattoo to get. It's your kid's name. But yeah, by far, her safety and her happiness by far. Yeah.
That's cool. And you're emphasizing safety. Is there reason why, or?
Oh, I think that actually her mother and I joke about this all the time. Is that because with our job, you see in a split second what could happen. You see the kid that's driving. Maybe your kid's riding with some guy who's driving like a jackass, and they get in a car wreck, head-on collision, and they die. Or they're out swimming without a life jacket, or swimming someplace they shouldn't, and then they drown, or whatever it is. So I think that that's wrapped up in our minds consistently. Like if my daughter says, "Hey, I want to go swimming up at whatever lake with my friends," I'm like, "No." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Well, because you can do this, and then you can do this, and this could happen."
Mm-hmm.
Or can I go, with this person somewhere? I'm like, no, because this could happen, or whatever. So you get a little hypersensitive to that. So safety is always the biggest thing on my mind for her. But I'm realistically, you can't protect your kids from everything. But her safety and just her safety in general is.
You think it ever makes her feel restricted at all? As
far as like
not being able to do certain things or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've loosened up quite a bit, but probably so. I don't want her to, suffer at the hands of how stressed I am, because you can't control everything. But I've loosened up quite a bit, and I'm kind of a pushover, so she gets to do whatever she wants at this point. So
yeah, I mean, when you're 16 and such a...
Yeah, she just kind of comes home to grab some food or something, then she takes off again. So.
From one friend to the next.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Let's get a wave as she goes by. That's pretty much it. So
yeah. How has your relationship with your daughter kind of changed throughout the years?
We've always been like super, super close. I think one of the benefits of having the job that I have is that I get large chunks of time off. So being off for 24 hours at a time, not working a 5-day-a-week job, is that it enables you to get really close to your family because you have so much time off with them.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
like magnificent because if you work the 5-day-a-week, 8 hours a day job, you're gone every day. By the time you get home, you're tired, all that kind of stuff. But with our jobs, you have so much time off that you can bond so much. It's very rare that we miss a game or a school event or something.
Mm-hmm.
Either her mom or I are always there. So we always had a real strong relationship and a strong bond.
That's awesome.
Now that she's got a boyfriend and whatnot, though, I can tell it's kind of somewhat starting to drift a little bit. I'm not necessarily the most important person in her life anymore. I've got him on the back burner.
That's got to hurt a little bit.
It does hurt a lot. I won't lie, that does hurt quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So I just have one more question for you. One more. When you look into the future, what is the ultimate goal, and what are you doing today to get there?
Oh.
This future is up to you. It could be 5, 10, 20 years, whatever you want.
I think the ultimate goal is to get my daughter secure in life, where she's going to be successful, and for me to be able to retire healthy. And healthy, I guess, would be the biggest, and be able to enjoy life outside of work. Look to that point of time where there's no responsibilities or there's no schedule, and I've set myself up financially and health-wise to be just happy. But,
so, you mentioned financially.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what do you do financially to kind of set yourself up?
Well, thankfully, our career has a very lucrative future to it as far as, the amount that we get paid. We're very blessed for the amount that we get paid. So having invested that right, it sets you up pretty well. So with that, just the pension alone and then some other investments that hopefully should set me up decent with the goal of hopefully retiring when I'm 50, hopefully.
Are you into Roth stocks and things like that?
Well, quite honestly, I give my money to some financial institution that hopefully is doing good things with it.
Like, I don't want to see it. I just want to make sure it
like
goes.
doing great. Well, that's another good part about our department too, is that our union has 2 different financial institutions that they work with that come and meet with us on a quarterly basis and project out, kind of find your goals as to where you want to be, how much you want when you retire, when you want to retire, and they kind of help you achieve that goal.
And there you go. You just covered my next question. I was like, do you meet with them? Do you see where?
So, yeah, they come right to the department. They circle through the different departments. They set up times to meet with you, and they.
You don't even got to take out time. That is
Nope.
nuts. That is awesome.
And our department gives us, and they pay us really well, but they also give us an extra stipend on top of that to invest. Just, you don't have to match or anything. They just give you an X amount of dollars to say, here you go, do what you want. Here's your financial people to meet with.
Wow.
So
that is awesome. Wow, you're making me want to be a firefighter.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, like I said, that was one of the reasons I switched, because our retirement's based on your highest 5 years combined, right? So if I go up there and I took it'll probably be like a 25% raise, if not more. That's definitely going to help my retirement a lot. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a paramedic story? It could be scary, horrific, funny, whatever you want.
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you about the best cardiac arrest save that I had.
Oh,
how about
sweet. That sounds awesome.
The best save that I ever had in my entire career. So I was at a basketball game in, I think it was Centralia, and what year was it playing? Stephen Achman, you know him, right? You guys are on the same age? Okay, anyway, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was probably 15 years ago-ish,
okay.
Right? Valley's playing in some championship game, and the stands are completely packed. Very tense game, and everybody's standing up and screaming. A guy behind me, 2 rows behind me, was up just really screaming, just going bonkers. He was he was just really mad at the refs. Anyway, so I look around and he just drops dead, right behind me. Smacks, boom, dead. So I hopped up 2 flights up, started doing CPR on him, and actually did old school, like mouth to mouth on him, and doing CPR. And then within I think 5 minutes, boom, he was up and he was talking.
So you did CPR for 5 minutes?
Somewhere around that area, maybe a little bit less. He woke up, and by the time he left the gym, when the paramedics got there, he was talking and everything.
Was conscious.
It was just super cool, because it was like the best save I ever had, because there's no equipment, no medications, nothing. It was just straight up old school, just CPR. And then
that is nuts.
So every year now on his birthday, he'll message me and be like, "Hey, thanks for another year, buddy." And then he came
That's
down.
Really cool.
It is pretty cool. And he came down to the fire station shortly after he got out of the hospital, and there's a picture of him and I kissing for the mouth-to-mouth thing.
Yeah.
So out of everything I've done, that was the coolest save I ever had, because that's where everything lined up, everything worked how it was supposed to work, and had
a huge crowd watching you.
Oh, it was like a hero. Like everybody's just surrounding around, and we're doing CPR, And then the game started back up again, went and sat down. So that was pretty cool. I mean, there's tons of stories of horrific and death and dying, but that's probably the best part about the job, is that every now and then, something you do, everything lines up perfectly right, and you can make a huge difference in someone's life, and someone could be alive because you were there that would have been dead.
Right.
So, but that was my coolest save ever.
That's pretty sweet.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, and he's still alive, and that was 15 years ago. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, Jason, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
That was super fun.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.